4th down and 6. Olbridge gotta have it. Shotgun formation. Nugent, a lot of time. Rolls out. He's running out of space. Will roll the other way. They look, corner of the end zone. Touchdown!
Rowan heading for the touchpad with the lead. And the Props will take the men's 400-yard freestyle relay.
Andrews will be in shotgun. He takes the snap, fakes the handoff. He'll throw it down the left sideline. He's got a wide open receiver. He's got the touchdown.
Motion man is Simmons. Trotman throwing towards Simmons down the field, and he makes the catch in traffic for a Bearcats touchdown.
Back to pass, middle of the field. The catch is made by Britt. She's off to the races at the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10. Britt is in for the score.
Back on in. Here's Yoxon. Yoxon to the backhand. Trying to go to the front. Makes the move and shot. And he scores!
And Gracie comes set and delivers. And that's it on the ground to second. Throw to first in time, and the ball game is over. South Shore survives a late scare, and they are the 2024 New York State Little League Baseball champions.
Live from Camden High School in Camden, New Jersey. Welcome all to WFA football between the Virginia Panthers and the Tri-State Warriors. The Warriors coming in with a record of 1-0. The Virginia Panthers coming in with a record of 1-1 in Division II. David Pizzuto alongside Joe Foreman here. Joe, welcome as we get set for kickoff here. The Tri-State Warriors kicking off first.
We're excited to be back calling the WFA. It's been quite a long time, but once again, we have kickoff here on PDF.
And it's end over end, landing at about the 20-yard line, just shy of it. Taking it is Armani Frazier. Frazier banged up and taken down just outside the 30-yard line. Looks like the first one in there was Antoinette Wise to make the tackle.
And sometimes those bounces can be tricky on the kickoff, making for some precarious situations on the return, but that was handled well by Frazier, able to regain her footing and take it out across the 30-yard line, starting field position for the Panthers at the 33.
That's right. So we'll get our scoreboard here going if it decides to transition. It does. Panthers and Warriors live here from Camden, New Jersey. And it looks like it will be Natasha McBride who will handle the snaps under center. Stacked backfield. She will look to go back to pass. Sends one deep down the field, and that one just incomplete. It was definitely in the vicinity of the receiver, Jaya Bayham. Good coverage, however, by Anderson.
And that's quite the play call to open up this game. Going downfield on your very first pass attempt, that has to put the defense on notice. And it looked like Bayham had a step on that play. Had the ball been a bit more to the outside, I think it's an easier catch, leading your receiver toward the sideline. Not a bad ball, however. It gave her a chance. Nonetheless, 2nd and 10.
So 2nd and 10, it will be McBride working under center still. Stacking into the box where the Warriors, they will run it, however, off tackle right side and springing out of the pack is Frazier. Frazier dips out of bounds, but not before she gets into Warriors territory. First down.
Really well-blocked play there by the Panthers. Frazier didn't have to wait long for that running lane to open up and for that play to develop. Slowly made her way toward that far sideline and then was able to accelerate rather quickly as those blocks were picked up nicely by the Panthers' offensive line. A great start for them on the ground and the first down of this game.
Absolutely. So good start here on the first couple of plays. They look for the home run ball, don't get it, but a nice run wide of the right side. Works to perfection. Probably see a lot of Frazier here in this one, and she gets the call again, this time wide to the left side, extending once again what looks to be another first down before she's corralled out of bounds by Delonzo. It looks like that'll be enough to move the chains.
Dia Marie Matthews did just enough there to stop the Warriors from getting to Frazier behind the line of scrimmage. They ran to the right on the previous play. This time they go left, and that little bit of contact initiated by Matthews on the edge was just enough to get Frazier the outside.
Yeah, we're getting another chance to look at it here on our screen before we take you back to live action. Just good hard running and getting that edge. Frazier twice in a row now. Moves the sticks. Now the inside handoff. The Warriors are there on the interior. Good job of tackling that time by Joseph on the interior. Looked to be the first carry of the game for Dia-Marie Matthews.
Joseph and Dorsey both there for Tri-State, really collapsing that running lane quickly. There was a hole for a brief moment there, but that duo on the defensive line of Tri-State able to blow that play up and finally slow down this running game a bit as that one goes for a loss of about a yard.
Yeah, it looks like they might have advanced it about a yard.
Yeah, Joe, they gave it a yard.
We'll call this one a 2nd down and 9. They'll come out once again out of the I formation behind McBride on 2nd and 9. The give, and that ball is loose, and it's on the ground. It looks like the Tri-State Warriors got there first. Flags came down late, but looked like the Warriors were all over that in the bad exchange on the handoff.
And that turnover is going to stand. The holding penalty is declined, and it will be Tri-State football. So a drive that had gotten off to a very promising start for Virginia ends with a turnover, and the Warriors get their first opportunity off the fumble.
Wow, Shakira Gray coming up with the loose ball. Get another chance to see that right during the exchange is where that ball came loose. Frazier never did get a clean handle on it. And as a result, right place at the right time, Shakira Gray, all she had to do was fall on top of it, Joe. And just like that, the Warriors take over.
And that's a completely unforced mistake for the Panthers. And those are the giveaways and the turnovers that you absolutely hate over the course of a game and over the course of a season. Those are game-changing plays, especially when they occur late in the game. Fortunately for Virginia, Tri-State still begins this drive inside their own 35-yard line. So in terms of field position, they still have the Warriors pinned back in their own territory. That being said, a promising drive does come to a very disappointing end with that turnover.
So the Warriors will take over 1st and 10 at their own 34-yard line after the Panthers able to string together a couple of first downs on the ground, but lose it by way of the fumble on their opening drive. Sine Williams, she will work out of the shotgun, and she's going to look to throw it on the game's first play underneath that pass high and wide of its target, Haley Delonzo, and it'll be 2nd and 10.
And that's one that Williams would like to have back because Delonzo had plenty of room to run if that pass is completed. That's a miss you hate as the Warriors get set quickly here for 2nd down.
Yeah, we will have some stops and starts in our video feed today as we are bringing you this game live on tape, one of the first of its kind here on the PDF Sports Network. This game being played on Saturday, May 10th. The give is underneath this time as the Warriors want to ground and pound, and diving ahead for about a gain of 2 was Deneen Robinson.
Robinson didn't have much room to run there, but lowered her shoulder and made the most of what was a really tight hole there in the line, plunging forward for a gain of a yard, maybe 2, and what could have been a potential first down had the pass been completed on first, instead is now a 3rd down and long, about 8 to go for Tri-State.
There, our fans at home are getting another chance to look at Robinson's first carry of the season. Not a lot on it, but it keeps the line of scrimmage moving forward. It'll be 3rd down and 8. First 3rd down of the game for the Warriors. And it will be Williams back to pass once again. She does get time, fires underneath, and that one is dropped by Delonzo. That's one that she should have had, but now a late flag coming in as Delonzo got spilled.
Well, that's a ball that if you're Delonzo, you understand you need to catch. And on the other side, if you're Virginia, that's a penalty you absolutely cannot commit. No reason for that late hit. The play had been over for at least a second or two, and that contact that came after Delonzo drops the ball forces the penalty flag from the official, and that's going to give Tri-State a first down.
Yeah, we just got another chance to see it on replay, and that hit came well late. Delonzo, good 2 or 3 steps past dropping the ball, was spilled out. So the Warriors get their first down of the game, and it's via the penalty. And they'll have the ball now on Virginia's side of the 50-yard line.
And that's not the way that you anticipated getting your first down of the game if you're Tri-State. That being said, you'll certainly take it. And now they're in business in plus territory.
So at the Virginia 49, they will set up after their first down of the game. We'll see if the Warriors can make it hurt here. Once again, it is Robinson in the backfield with Williams. Williams, however, with the 3-step drop, she fires in the middle, and That one's broken up that time. Good play in the secondary by Jalissa Jones, but that was thrown in a heap of traffic, Joe.
Yeah, dangerous throw there, but if you're the Warriors, you have to like the pass protection you've been getting for your quarterback, Sine Williams, early in this game. She was able to step up through what was a collapsing pocket, buy herself a couple of extra seconds to get that throw off. With that occurring, she did make a very dangerous throw, but it does fall incomplete after it was batted down. That being said, you get this kind of pass protection for 4 quarters, and you have to feel good about the potential for your passing game.
100% as the Warriors have gone to the air 3 out of their first 4 plays here in the early stages. They did have the one run by Robinson on the left side of that line, but otherwise Williams not being shy about putting it in the air. 2nd down and 10. Once again, they work out of the shotgun. There is the give underneath on the delay, and Robinson powers forward for about a gain of 3 yards. And a nice tackle that time by Matthews.
Guinasia Herring was on an island there as well on that play. Matthews, as you said, in on it as well. But it looked like when that ball was handed off, there was potential for a big play there, maybe bouncing that toward the far side. But the defensive front for Virginia did a good job to make sure that didn't go very far. And once again, it's a short gain on the ground for Tri-State, setting up a 3rd down at about 8.
Yeah, so 3rd down, long 7, short 8 in that neighborhood. Last time they faced a 3rd down, it was a 15-yard personal foul penalty against the Panthers that continued the drive. And a deep drop about 5 or 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Williams will fake the handoff this time to Robinson. Once again, pretty good time. And in the middle of traffic again, Delonzo cannot hook up with it. Looked like the ball may have hit her in the hands there, Joe, again. And now it'll be 4th down.
I think that's another one you have to catch if you're Delonzo. She had the defender on her back, which is where you want that defender on a play like that. A route coming over the middle of the field. When you know you have the defender behind you, there's not nearly as much of a concern about taking a big hit. That ball looked to be on target and on time, but as you said, Dave, it appeared to go through her hands, setting up a 4th down.
Yeah, we got a chance to see it again on replay right there, and certainly one she should have had. Now, not sure if she would have had the 1st down on the catch if the tackle is immediately made, but either way, it would have been a longer, shorter 4th down, and the Warriors are going to want to talk things over here. They'll take their first time out.
I think when you're in plus territory around midfield, there's often that question of whether or not it's 4-down territory, and I think the answer to whether or not you go for it comes down to how much faith you have in your special teams unit and your punter. If you have faith in your punter in this spot, I think you do kick it and try and pin Virginia back deep in their own territory. However, that's easier said than done from the 50, and it does look like Tri-State is setting up to punt here.
Yep, and while they discuss it, we're taking a look at the WFA Division III standings right now, Joe, and you can see it's a crowded house in Division III. And the Tri-State Warriors, of course, small sample size, only the one game played to see the 2 divisions, but the WFA is different from a lot of leagues in that they use the Massey ratings, and that's why you see teams that are undefeated lower in the standings against teams that maybe have a loss or haven't played as many games, and that's because your strength of schedule plays a huge role, right, Joe?
It certainly does, and you take a look at a game like this with Tri-State taking on a Division II opponent in Virginia, that makes for a very interesting situation if the Warriors were to lose this game. Of course, you'd love to win it, but if you lose it, that defeat doesn't impact you nearly as much in the standings as it would if you were to lose to a Division III opponent. So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward in the WFA season, something to keep in mind entering our Warriors broadcast next week as well. So we'll have the standings for you updated each week. You can also check those out at hostedsports.com, which has up-to-date roster, standings, and more from various semi-pro and professional leagues throughout the country. A great resource, and Massey ratings definitely play a big role in the standings, looking perhaps a bit more unusual than what you'd expect.
Yeah, absolutely. As we have this extended break, I'm not sure if there was a second timeout called, but the Warriors at first looked like they were going to go for it on 4th. Then they called the timeout and they brought the punt team in. Now, with this extended break, you wonder if they're fixing perhaps to go for it. But no, Delonzo is back out there. It looks like they will indeed punt this one away after the long break.
And I think that's the right decision here if you trust your special teams unit. First and foremost, you have to block for your punter. And second, you want to avoid that shanked kick that ends up going straight out of bounds and nets you nothing. If you can put this one inside the 30, I think that's a successful kick.
Yeah, especially early in a game, playing that field position game is sometimes the smartest move here. You try to play on a short field the next time you get the ball. But Delonzo is back. She was hit late in that drive, missed one in traffic, and she does get this one away. End over end, it's able to skip on the turf. It bounces up, and it is collected at about the 15-yard line by Frazier. Frazier once again getting the angle on the sideline and is knocked out hard past the 30-yard line.
Huge hit at the end of that play as well by Crawford to send Frazier spilling out of bounds. But a great job by Frazier as well at the beginning of that return to make sure that the first defender didn't take her down. That kick also took another awkward end-over-end hop. Frazier handled it cleanly, and she needed to, because if she doesn't, she's probably being taken down well inside the 30. That was a good punt there by Delonzo. Good return as well by Frazier to once again give Virginia good field position, as their last drive ended with good field position. But we're going to have a brief break here in the action as we have an injured player down on the field.
Yes, we do. The audience at home got to see the big hit issued by Johnson, and that was Frazier, who was down on one knee, who absorbed that hit. She got right back up and trotted onto the field, but got up a little woozy. And while we have this extended break, Joe, we can talk a little bit about the Warriors, and looking at our About the Warriors graphic here. And they began operations back in 2022. They were back in Division II for the first 2 years of their existence. You see the modest records, a couple of games against higher competition during those seasons as well, but only the 2 victories on the field, 2-11 total. They did not field a team last year, and this is their first year in Division III.
Well, the Warriors are a team that we picked up here on PDF in 2023, and our debut broadcast for them is against a team that is also not fielding a team this year in the New York Wolves, a former WFA championship team.
Right, at the Division II level. They'll swing this one out on the pitch and trying to get the edge, and getting to about the 45-yard line, perhaps a little bit extended, is Dia Marie Matthews. So her second carry here nets about 4 yards.
And you mentioned those modest records going back to your previous point about the Warriors, Dave. And a couple of those games that we covered, including that game against the Wolves, are games where the Warriors were well within striking distance for 2, even 3 quarters. Those games got away late, and that seemed to be a trend as we were covering Tri-State a couple of years ago, something they'd like to change here in 2025.
Yeah, very good point you make, Joe, because a lot of those games were close games. A couple of them did get out of hand, and were lopsided, but otherwise, close games are what you'd expect from this Tri-State Warriors team. For the first time, working out of the shotgun was McBride, and once again looks for the home run down the field. A lot of traffic, and that's going to result in a penalty. Looked like getting in there a little bit late was Lily Anderson, and might have gotten tied up.
Yeah, I think she tried to come back to make a play on that ball late in the play, and when you come back with the ball that close to the receiver to make a play on it and knock the receiver off the ball, very difficult to avoid a flag in that situation, and the call is going to be pass interference.
Yeah, we're getting a chance to see it on replay, and yeah, you could see it's like Anderson kind of got in the way of the wide receiver there. The pass was not really on target, at least not in stride with the receiver. Receiver had to come back for it as well. I believe the intended receiver was Bayham again. But just like that, Virginia is back in Tri-State territory, 1st and 10 at the opponent's 40-yard line. A turnover on possession number 1 as they get the sticks moving in the right direction here and wait for the chain gang here. But right back where their drive kind of stalled earlier in this first quarter. McBride continues out of the shotgun, this time flanked to the right and left. She'll look in the flat, and that one extended and over the head of Matthews, who could not take it in.
And those are the kind of misfires that you hate to see as an offense. Good open look there, quick drop back in the shotgun, 2 steps with a pair of backs in the backfield as well. When you get the chance to swing it out to one of those 2 backs in that split close look, and the back is wide open along the sideline, That's a nice, easy completion for a quarterback in most cases. Not this time, and those are throws that as a quarterback you'd love to have back and opportunities you hate to miss.
100%, because now it brings up 2nd down and long and 2nd and 10. You'd like to get 2, 3, 4 yards out of that last play at the very least. It's like Frazier continues to be out of the game, I believe, and the give continues to be for Matthews, and Matthews held up in the backfield. That time a couple of Warriors in on the tackle. Jasmine Poole leading the way.
Yeah, Poole's certainly among them on that tackle, and now you put the Panthers in a 3rd and long situation, and that's something they haven't faced yet in this game. And something that I picked up from them early as well is that it seems like on 1st down, they have looked to take those shots down the field, and they got a flag on the last one. Do you perhaps try that again here in hopes of getting a flag and maybe picking up the 1st down that way? The other option, of course, is to try and make this a bit more manageable of a 4th down should you not pick up the 1st. Definitely options on the table here for the Panthers, who I think are just outside of that range where you look to go for it on 4th.
Right. I was just about to say, is this deep penetration enough to go for it on 4th down? We'll see what they try here, and it will be the long ball down the field, and that one probably should have been picked off, but Haley Delonzo slipped through her hands as that pass was well overthrown in the direction of Jones.
Well, it's been a tough quarter for Delonzo in terms of securing the football, and I think the appeal of that interception is how much running room you were going to have out of the defensive back position if you're Delonzo. And I'm not at all surprised the Panthers looked to air it out downfield. I didn't think that they would look to run it and try and make it a shorter 4th down. I thought they'd try to get it all, maybe get that flag. Instead, they nearly turned the ball over and gave the Warriors a chance for a huge run back.
But in case we were wondering, now we have our answer. They will go for it on 4th down here, 4th and 11. 2 running backs into the game, flanking McBride, probably to pass protect here as the Warriors come in on a blitz. That ball on the ground, it forces McBride into being a runner, and she's going to get chased out of bounds by April Romeo. A huge loss on 4th down, and the Tri-State Warriors hold again.
Well, that play, a complete disaster for the Panthers, but I think the miscue on the fumbled snap is compounded by the fact that McBride didn't throw the ball away. Rather than throwing it away and just conceding the down on the throwaway and giving the Warriors the ball back between the 40 and the 45, instead the Warriors will start from almost all the way at midfield, and they're effectively picking up their 2nd drive about maybe 10 yards, a little bit more, back from where their 1st drive ended, and you have to be happy with your defense there if you're Tri-State. I can't say they forced that miscue on 4th down, but when you know you have to get the ball out quickly and pick up a big chunk of yardage to get the 1st, that sometimes can mess with your timing as an offense, and we saw the effects of that on 4th down as the fumbled snap by McBride gives the ball back to Tri-State.
Yeah, we'll see what they do here on their 2nd offensive possession here. Still good penetration on that play by April Romeo as the Panthers did keep 2 backs in the backfield, as we're going to have a delay of game penalty on the Warriors here. That's not the way you want to start this drive, but even with the added protection, Romeo was able to sniff that one out, and no choice there but to go backwards. But 1st and 15, not the way you want to start here on your 2nd offensive series.
Absolutely not, and I've always been baffled when a drive begins for a team with a penalty like a delay of game. The offense, it's 4th down. You have to know there's a good chance we're getting back on the field, and we've seen it at all levels across many different leagues. A lot of drives do begin with a penalty flag for some sort of procedural penalty or a delay of game. It's baffling.
Yeah, and we've seen it really hinder a lot as now the Warriors, they're about to line up offside as well.
Just a bit.
And there is the give. No, it's actually going to be Williams on the option, the handoff option, and trying to gain the edge was Daughtry, but she had nowhere to go. Might have gotten back to the line of scrimmage, but that did not fool the Panthers.
No, it didn't. And I think the misalignment to begin the play negatively impacted that play in a big way. Of course, the timing is thrown off. You have to rush back into position, but you got to look at the slot receiver lining up offensively offsides, a call that you don't see very often. And by having to retreat back, I think that really hurts your ability to block effectively on that play. And that was blown up from the start. Daughtry and Williams also got very close together. The defense could effectively defend them both with 1 defender.
Yeah, got to see the replay again of the misalignment. Wide receiver in the slot able to get back, but it'll be second down and long, and the give will be to Robinson. Robinson does get over tackle and gets back to the original line of scrimmage, maybe just shy of it. It will be third and long, but Robinson gets the penalty yards, or most of them, back.
And you'll take that if you're Tri-State. Robinson with good patience and a well-blocked play once again by Tri-State. This time Robinson's able to turn it into a bit of a bigger gain than we saw in her first couple of carries. And now Tri-State in a very similar situation. They had a 3rd and 8 on their last drive before ultimately deciding to punt on 4th down. This will be a 3rd and about 11, and you have to think if they don't pick this up, they probably punt again.
So 3rd down and a chunk here. And I believe the Warriors are still looking for their first completion of the game as well. They had a couple of drops on the first drive. See if they go back to the pass here. Undoubtedly, it will be Williams, but she's going to be swallowed up in the backfield. Not one, not two, but 3 Panthers back there. Take your pick. They were led by Herring, and coming in late to finish things off was Zachary Galloway.
Well, nice pass rush there for Virginia, and for the first time in this game, Sine Williams did not have time to get a throw off, and throughout this game, Williams has had pretty good pass protection, at least in the early going here, and we've seen her step up into a collapsing pocket very well. No chance to step up here, however, as she is brought down by 3 Virginia defenders.
Yeah, she kind of got the first look, as we see it on the replay, was able to scan, and once she looked off her first receiver, had no choice, and was swallowed up by 3 Panthers. So on 4th down, they will punt it away again. Delonzo back deep as the Warriors go -10 on this drive after getting the ball just shy of midfield. Robinson in the up back position to get some protection here for Delonzo, who does get that one off a really good punt. And it's muffed at the 28-yard line. Having to reverse field now is Frazier. Frazier trying to make something out of nothing, and does. Once again, gets over edge before she's pounced out of bounds past the 40-yard line. Good job there by Frazier. Welcome back to the game.
And Frazier has been a really key part of this Panthers attack in terms of the battle for field position. We've seen it now in a couple of punts where Frazier very easily could have been taken down inside the 30 and set up Virginia with okay field position, not great. That's now 2 drives where she's turned that okay field position into great starting field position. Once again, Virginia will get set to begin this drive around the 40 as they will huddle up along their sideline here. Perhaps the end of the first quarter?
I believe it is, as we're looking at the replay of that kickoff return, and I believe, yeah, they are moving the sticks in the other direction, so that will be the end of the first quarter. And they'll switch the fields here.
Well, if you're looking back at that first quarter, as Tri-State, you have to be pleased with some of the things you did defensively. The one big carry and the pass interference penalty, the big negatives for them on that side of the ball. But outside of those 2 plays, they've done a really good job disrupting the timing of this Virginia offense. Virginia really hasn't had much in terms of the passing game. They've taken some shots down the field, but they haven't had any easy completions, and their plays that have gone for positive yardage outside of penalty yardage, those plays have come on the ground. On the other side, if you're Virginia, they've really given up nothing to Tri-State offensively, so you have to be pleased with your defense as well. I think if you're Tri-State, one of the big positives on the offensive side has been the pass protection. It did collapse a bit on that last 3rd down, but overall I think you have to be pleased with how you've protected Sine Williams in this game. Just have to try and be a bit more sure-handed on the offensive side.
So first play of the second quarter marks the beginning of the 3rd drive, and now coming out of the pack is Matthews. Matthews emerges from the interior there and gets past the 50 and is out past the 40 as well, just outside the 35. Big gain there for the Panthers on play number 1.
And Matthews has gotten a few opportunities carrying the football, specifically after Frazier left the game for a time with an injury, and she makes the most of that opportunity, emerging from the middle of the pack there, taking that carry up the middle, breaking it to the second level quickly. Had some good downfield blocking as well. And you can see her on the replay directing traffic a bit as she makes her way toward the near sideline and picks up a nice chunk. And I said it before, the chunk play for Virginia in that first quarter came on the ground. They opened the second quarter with a chunk play on the ground as well.
A gain of about 20 on that last rush. Marie Matthews playing both sides of the ball, making plays here in the offense. This time it will be Frazier. Frazier scampers out past the left side and still tiptoeing and out of bounds right at the marker. Now a late hit that came out as well by Alexander, and that's going to put the ball probably inside the red zone now.
Another penalty you can't afford, this time on the side of Tri-State in terms of a late hit for a personal foul. But on that play, once again, I mentioned it on the first drive, Matthews as a blocker this time gets to the edge, and that lead block allowed Frazier to pick up, I believe, just enough for the first down before the penalty came in. So as the officials discuss this over, we're getting another look at that last play, and it is indeed a personal foul. Now it looks like they pointed in the direction of Virginia for that personal foul call, so this one might be coming back.
Yeah, pretty interesting. We just got a chance to see the replay in the tail end there. It looked like Alexander kind of gave her a little bit of a bear hug, and Frazier might have sold it a little bit as she got hit harder than what she did. It seemed like it was more like a bump. I'm trying to get the replay again to watch probably just that tail end. Let's see if I can get it queued up the right way. As Joe, you'll keep us abreast of the actual call here. Let's see if we can get this.
It is indeed a personal foul that's going against Virginia here.
Yeah, and we're seeing it right at the end here in slow down. It looked like Alexander did try to hold up there, and Frazier just went wildly out of bounds and might have said a few words to Alexander, so maybe that was the reason for the personal foul. But either way, if it happens at the end of the play, the first down stands, and we'll have a first down and 10 from the 40. So you actually go negative yards on that play, but still have the first and 10. It will be Frazier this time wide right side, scampering through the hole, making one miss, and finally out of bounds inside the 20. So Frazier says, just give me the ball again, I'll do it the other way.
And that run was punctuated with a big stiff arm along the sideline as well. And this dual back attack right now for the Panthers is coming through in a big way offensively. We've seen a couple of chunk plays on the ground these last couple of handoffs, and that last carry on the play prior to this one only negated by the personal foul. So if you're the Panthers, you have to be feeling pretty good about what you're doing on the ground so far on this drive and throughout the first quarter plus of this game, as we do have an injured Warrior down on the field here.
Yes, we do. And with that injury, we'll take a closer look at the Virginia Panthers and some of their information this season. The Panthers, this is their first year in Division II. They are ranked right now in the middle of the pack. They have a 1-1 record. And you could see they have been a very good Division III team over the past 3 seasons. But, Joe, the real thing that has, put a negative mark on some of the things that they were able to do in Division III is 3 opening round losses in the playoffs. They would have liked to have gone a little bit deeper in each of those seasons, but Massey has them as a pretty significant favorite here today over the Warriors. And listen, for a team that made its way from Division III to Division II, they should feel pretty good coming into this one. And
as someone who loves the mathematics behind point spreads and determining who should win, who will win based on different metrics, I really love the Massey rating as a metric for measuring where these teams stand across Division II and Division III. But as you mentioned, looking at what the Panthers have done as part of Division III, it is a bit disappointing, especially after an unbeaten season in 2023, to make it to the postseason only to exit in the first round. So it's an exciting time for them, especially this season, with a lot of high hopes to perhaps get that first postseason victory.
Yeah, as we get back to live action here and up the middle, once again, it is Matthews. Matthews gets stood up, but is able to continue to power forward for a gain of about 4 or 5 there on first down. So some hard yards in the interior for Matthews.
Hard yards indeed, as we have another Warrior down on the turf here. We'll see if this perhaps stops play, and it looks like it will. And there is a flag down on the play as well, as the officials will stop play once again, and they're going to wave the trainer back out.
Yeah, so we'll get to see what comes of this here. And, Joe, we last year when the Warriors did not field a team, we covered the New York Wolves and their home season. We covered 3 of their home games last year, 1 in Jersey and 2 in Long Island. And they had made the jump from Division II, where they won the championship in Division II, to the Pro Division, Division I. And they had a tough year. So it's not, it's not uncommon for teams to move up and take their lumps. But, in the case of Virginia, they're looking to be in the mix this season. And I believe the flag, Joe, was a face mask call against the Warriors. So we're going to see a 1st and goal coming up here as we get our camera situated.
A bit of movement there from our camera, but you got to catch up to that football. It's moved up the field pretty quickly here for the Panthers as they've worked their way down into the red zone now, deep in the red zone, just outside the 5-yard line. But you said it, Dave, not easy to make that jump from Division III to Division II, and the competition for Tri-State here today, Division II caliber.
The give is to Frazier through the middle of that line. Once again, she's just shy of the goal line, got stood up at about the 2-yard line. Good job there coming in late by Jaquay Dorsey to stand up Frazier. But Frazier looks to be totally okay after suffering an injury on a kickoff return earlier in the game.
And that's good to see, and especially on a run like that, you need to be good to go if you're going to barrel into the line of scrimmage and really try and force your way forward across the goal line on a carry like that. Simple dive right up the middle, and Frazier a couple of yards short.
So here we go, 2nd down and goal. I'd like to think that they'll continue this power running game here inside the 5. They do give it to Matthews this time as she is just shy of the goal line. Once again, the Warriors get there with numbers. Ashana Alexander first and Shakira Gray to finish her off.
Well, with a 3rd and goal upcoming from inside the 1, the battle in the trenches, front and center on this next snap. I think the question is now, if you're the Panthers, do you hand it off right up the middle again, or do you perhaps fake that handoff and maybe roll the quarterback out to try and catch that defense off guard? I don't think there's any way you throw it. I think the question is who gets to carry this football as the Panthers try to get on the board for the first time in this game.
Got a chance to see the replay again there, and the good team tackling by the Warriors from in close. Again, it looked like Matthews might have had that lane, but it is Matthews and Frazier once again. And it's the fake on the option play, and going in untouched is Natasha McBride. She had to extend right near the pylon, but we have our first points of the game. The Panthers register.
And I really like that play call, Dave. I speculated before they decided to go for it there on the ground that it could be either another handoff right up the middle, some power running, or perhaps you fake that handoff and let the quarterback keep it, and you'll get a look on the replay at how many Warriors were crowded in the box there. I think I counted 9, maybe even 10, as it looked like one of the defensive backs was offset, lined up against the receiver on the near side, closer to that line of scrimmage. But either way, McBride got the edge, and it was a foot race to the pylon. She won that foot race and takes it in for the game's first touchdown.
All right, so our score 6-0 here in the opening stages of the second quarter, although the Panthers are about to call a timeout here to think about this 2-point conversion. And the Panthers did utilize a pretty significant chunk of that second quarter, Joe. They got the ball back, if you remember, to start this quarter and really used the power running game. I don't think they threw a pass on that drive.
They did not, and I think that has to be a bit concerning if you're Tri-State, that the Panthers were able to effectively run the football all the way down the field, and not only were they able to hand the ball off and pick up big yardage, but they were able to overcome a 15-yard personal foul that negated one of those carries, and it was a big one that was negated by that personal foul on Virginia. So I think if you're Tri-State now, after a first quarter that you were pretty pleased with, I'd say, on the defensive side of the ball, you cannot be pleased with how that drive played out, as the Panthers were just the more physical team. They won the battle at the line of scrimmage, and the running backs did a great job for them as well. Matthews and Frazier both picking up chunks on the ground, proving to be dynamic playmakers for this Panthers offense. You definitely have to adjust a bit if you're Tri-State on the next drive defensively, and perhaps if they do, on the other side, if you're Virginia, you may be able to connect on one of those big plays down the field without as much resistance in the secondary.
Yep, and let's not forget, too, that the Panthers were flagged for a 15-yard personal foul call that negated a big rush, like you mentioned, Joe, and then the Warriors did give some of that real estate back with that face mask call that set them up 1st and goal. So a couple of self-inflicted errors as well. And the Warriors could not hold with the goal line stand. 2-point conversion. They are going for 2 here. McBride under center. The give once again to Frazier. And that ball once again on the ground. The Warriors pounce on it. The 2-point conversion unsuccessful. And the score remains 6-0.
And that looked promising when the ball was handed off to Frazier, but very quickly she lost her grip on the football, and any chance to pick up the 2-point conversion from there was gone.
Yeah, that's the second time, too, that there's been a fumble on the exchange from McBride to Armani Frazier. And thankfully, it didn't cost them a turnover on that possession, but rather the failure of the 2-point conversion. But still, those can come back to haunt you, those extra points and 2-point conversions. Last week, the Tri-State Warriors, an 8-6 victory over the Upstate Predators. So we know exactly where those 2 points, where the difference was in the game. It was on the 2-point conversion.
And I think you have to be really careful moving forward in this game now if you're the Panthers, because all it takes is one of those miscues on a handoff to be fumbled in the wrong direction, and then you have a scoop and score for Tri-State. Against the team that you've handled pretty well so far, if you're Virginia, you can't afford to give away points with the football in your possession. And if you're Tri-State now, perhaps you get a bit more aggressive, pursuing the back in the offensive backfield. The Panthers haven't shown that they have the ability to complete passes down the field yet, and I think that really lends itself to the Warriors being a bit more aggressive in their pursuit of the ball carrier and in their pursuit of getting into the backfield very soon after the handoff. You pounce on one of those with some momentum headed toward the other end zone, and you may come away with 6.
So Kiana Carpenter will get things started the other way now, off of the fingertips of Coward. Coward able to center up and gets past the 40, and now she has room to run with some speed, and against the last line of defense, it is the kicker Carpenter making the tackle just outside the 40-yard line. Probably saves a touchdown there, Joe.
Huge return by Coward, and as you said, Dave, a potentially touchdown-saving tackle. However, even with that tackle, it's great starting field position for Tri-State, and that's exactly what you're looking for after you gave up the game's first score. So the Warriors now will get to work on offense just outside of the Panthers' 40-yard line, and they have a chance to get this game even rather quickly if they can put together a short scoring drive.
Yeah, about a 30-yard return for Coward. We're seeing the tail end of it now on the replay, but it started off precarious there, right off of her fingertips, and very nearly gave the ball away. Turns out to be a 30-yard advantage, and not far away from where they kicked it off. The Warriors will take over. This is their second time in Panthers territory here. Let's see if they could do something with it offensively. Big penalty on the first down of their drive, of their last drive, really threw a wrench into things. First and 10. Williams will continue to operate out of the shotgun. Robinson to her left. 2 wide receivers here on the near side. The fake underneath. Williams looking for a couple of receivers in traffic, but unable to hold on. First, looked like it went through McCall's hands, and then Valerie Miller was in the neighborhood as well.
I think that's exactly what happened, Dave, and you have to like the way Sine Williams has thrown the football in this game. She's gotten rid of it quickly enough on most plays. She's only taken 1 sack, and I think her pass protection deserves a lot of credit. But right now, the receivers for Tri-State have had a tough time securing the football, and looking at the replay, I think that ball went off the hands of McCall and then off the hands of Miller on the rebound.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. We got a chance to see it in slow motion there, and I think, again, Miller had a shot, but it was through the hands first of McCall. Williams back to pass again. This time looks in the deep flat, and that one is too far extended in the direction of Delonzo to be 3rd down.
Once again, the look was there for Tri-State, and I think the receivers do deserve credit in regards to getting open. They have had separation. They have had chances. They have given their quarterback plenty of throwing lanes. The offensive line is blocked well. I think right now the big issue for Tri-State is that they just haven't been able to connect on some open pass attempts. There was one early misfire by Williams, and now we've seen at least 3 drops. I'd consider that one the second misfire of the game for the Tri-State quarterback.
Yeah, that would have been tough for Delonzo to get up and remain in bounds. But here we go on 3rd and 10. They go back to pass again. Williams looking in the middle of traffic and nobody home. Only player really that had a beat on it was Bayham for the Panthers. It'll be 4th down.
That one thrown into heavy traffic once again by Williams. And I think when you have frustrating plays, be it a drop or a misfire on an open completion, sometimes you may tend to force it a little bit to try and get something back ahead of what will now be a 4th down. But it's been a really tough sequence now for Tri-State. They very easily could have picked up a total of maybe 15 yards through the air on this drive over the course of a couple of plays. Instead, they picked up nothing, and it's now 4th and 10.
And now down on the scoreboard, they elect to go for it here, just outside the Panthers' 40-yard line, 4th and 10. Huge play here for both sides. The Warriors looking for their first completion of the game. They work in the flat. The pass is completed, and Delonzo is wrapped up. She's well short of the first down. Good open field tackle by Deshandra Beasley. And the Warriors get their first completion of the game, Joe, but they turn it over on downs.
Yeah, and I think Delonzo really showed you what she can do once she gets the football in her hands on that particular play. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to pick up the first down, but that could have gone for a gain of about 4 or 5. Instead, it turned into a gain of about 7 or 8. And if you complete that 3rd down pass or even that 1st down pass, you certainly pick up at least 1 first down on this drive. And you hate to see the drive come to an end like that. It is ending the drive on a bit of a positive note in terms of completing your first pass and making something happen after the catch, but it really stings to know that you could have continued this drive and maybe even gotten even in this game if you take care of business on 1st down, 2nd down, and 3rd down.
Yeah, we're watching the replay for a second time here as we have an injury on the field, but yeah, good pitch and catch that time, but got to give credit to the Panthers as well for being in the right place at the right time, wrapping up, understanding where the first down marker is, and making the play to get the ball back into your offense. Looks like we have a lot of activity right in front of the Panthers bench. Not sure who got up slowly there, but we're going to have an extended break. And, you know, getting back, Joe, to the Massey ratings, we're going to flash the Bearcats schedule up on the screen in just a moment here. Actually, yes, here it is. So we're going to put our schedule on screen and talk a little bit about what remains here. Now, next week, we'll be back here for a game against the Connecticut Ambush. But the rest of the teams that the Warriors play are Division III teams with the exception of the New York Knockout. But they, too, are a team moving up from 3 to 2.
And the Knockout are a team that we saw Tri-State play a couple of years ago. And that was another one of those games that was back and forth early. The Warriors were within striking distance, and that game just got away from them late. So it would be interesting to see what kind of progression the two teams have made since that last meeting a couple of years ago. It's been a long time, but we very much look forward to the return of Tri-State Warriors football here on PDF. And Dave, when you introduced the schedule, you did mention the Bearcats. We also have Jersey Bearcats Arena football here on PDF. Plenty of that coming up as well. And we covered a great one this past weekend. I tuned in for the final minutes of that game. It made me even more salty that I couldn't be there.
I meant to do that, Joe, to lead into that wonderful transition that you did. Thank you for the bailout there. But yes, the Warriors, we'll have them twice more here on PDF, the game against the Ambush next week, and then we'll see them in mid-June against the Buffalo Blizzard. They'll make the trip downstate to play the Warriors. But yes, the Jersey Bearcats are part of our bread and butter spring, if you will, because we not only do we cover the Jersey Bearcats, but we'll cover the entirety of their playoff run. And regardless of who's in the championship, the AAL2 All-Star Game and Championship is scheduled for mid-July, and that'll be played at the Warananko Sports Complex in New Jersey and Roselle, home of the Bearcats. So we'll have that all for you on PDF as well. And Joe, I'll tell you what, Saturday's arena football game, very sloppy, very messy. I think probably more personal fouls than I've ever seen in a game, more offsetting personal fouls. We had ejections in the game as well. But at the end, the Bearcats continue to find a way to stay undefeated.
And I think that's the most important thing. It may not always be pretty. It may not always be how you drew it up and how you schemed it in practice and the week of preparation leading up to the game. But if you come away with a win and find a way to secure that victory, it's much easier to put the miscues and any mistakes in the rearview mirror and say, all right, we have a chance to improve and we can fix these things heading into the next game. It doesn't weigh as heavily on you coming off a W as opposed to an L. And as you can see now on your screens at home, there is an ambulance out on the field to attend and to help remove the injured player from the field of play here. And unfortunately, Dave, this is not the first time that we've seen this covering the WFA. We've seen it before during our inaugural season of coverage. That being said, they do everything necessary to make sure that any necessary medical attention is brought down to the field of play immediately, and we're seeing that again here as the injured player is helped off. Not sure if you caught who it was that was down earlier. It was very far away on the opposite side of the field.
Yeah, I did not, as we'll jump forward here a little bit and get ready for this first play. I was wondering if we had it captured on the replay. We are going to look at the last play and the replay again. Now I'm looking at it on my tiny screen here, and it's just really hard because, let's see the replay. Yeah, you don't really see anybody down at the end of that play. So whoever went down to a knee late, Joe, on that last play. But whoever it is, we hope for the best, as the first responders here doing a great job of getting to the injured players. And we resume action here. Second quarter, the Panthers, their first drive after scoring a touchdown on their last one, looking to go up now by a couple of scores. Take over after the turnover on downs. And looks like we have a new quarterback in the game, and on the keeper, spilled in the backfield. Nice job by Quay Dorsey on the new quarterback in the game, Eve Jenkins.
Well, Eve Jenkins, listed on the roster as a tight end, gets a chance to take the snap there and immediately look to roll, and Jenkins is headed back toward the sideline. Tough to tell if that's to get the play call, and it looks like that is indeed the case. So Jenkins now appears as if she's going to get the opportunity at quarterback on this drive anyway, and we'll see, though. It doesn't look like she's in the middle of that huddle, though that might change here, and it will. So she is going to take over at quarterback on this drive, and that's coming off a scoring drive that was powered primarily, if not entirely, by the ground game.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a loss of 5 on first down, so now it's second down and 15. And don't know if this is a result of an injury to McBride that Jenkins is in the game, but on a second rushing play, another heavy loss as the Warriors get in the backfield again, this time on Frazier.
Well, I said it at the end of the last drive, Dave. The Warriors were going to have to adjust defensively, and I don't think they were going to let the Panthers take advantage of them on the ground again. The defensive front for Tri-State, I speculated, might get a bit more aggressive in pursuit of the ball carrier, might get a bit more aggressive in their pursuit of maybe disrupting a handoff, and we've seen the effects of that here on the first 2 plays of this drive. Nothing doing for the Panthers offensively on these first 2 handoffs. One, a direct snap to the quarterback, but either way, it is now a third down and very long with a chance for Tri-State to get the ball back in great field position.
Yeah, we got a chance to appreciate it on the replay here. I'm going to guess here about 21 yards to go here on third down. Seems to be in that range, and we haven't seen the ability for them to throw the ball up, and that's another play that's broken up in the backfield. I don't even know if the exchange was clean on that last one.
Yeah, another miscue in the offensive backfield for the Panthers, and that last drive was free from those kinds of mistakes that we saw early in the game, with the exception of the 2-point try. However, that's a really bad time for that kind of mistake, as now it is 4th down and a mile. And you need a good punt here if you're the Panthers. Otherwise, Tri-State is going to get the ball in plus territory. I think that's likely regardless of what kind of kick you get here. And a big opportunity for the Warriors after their last drive ended on just 4 plays. A timeout has been called here by Virginia.
Yes, indeed it has. So thinking about the penetration that the Warriors have been getting on the first 3 plays of that drive, you wonder here, as you line up for a punt, if you can keep this Warriors team away from a potential block here, because we know how pivotal special teams can be in these games as well.
Very easily, a game can turn in an instant on a special teams play, and I'm not sure any other type of play has more potential to change a game more quickly. We see it all the time. Very easy to forget about how important special teams are in semi-professional leagues and women's professional football, and in the NFL, the games that many members of our audience are accustomed to watching on a weekly basis. But we see it all the time. Special teams plays completely turn games quickly. If you're the Panthers, you're hoping that doesn't happen here.
Officially a 4th down and 26. And back is Carpenter to kick it. Sky-high kick, and it looks like it was shanked over to the right sideline. It's still going, and it looks like Delonzo played it on the bounce, and maybe she stepped out of bounds there, or unless there was a fair catch called, in which case she cannot obviously run it, and that could have been even a penalty if she tried to. But I wonder there what happened, Joe.
Yeah, I think the ball must have skipped off the sideline. That is all I can think of. Now, they have turned the down marker over to reflect first down, so it is tri-state football. No change there, of course. But I do believe that ball did contact the sideline. If it didn't, I think then that should have been a play that continues on to the end zone, because if Delonzo didn't step out of bounds, I don't see any other reason why that play is blown dead. I don't know if the replay provided any clarity, really.
It did not, no.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But I don't think she stepped out.
I don't think so either. But, and again, there was no flag down, so it wasn't like she tried to advance, a fair catch, which would have resulted in a penalty. But either way, that results in a 4-yard punt for the Panthers. And now we're going to have a timeout called. And could that be the 2-minute warning, I wonder? Because I didn't see a direction on who called the timeout there. But either way, both teams going back to their huddle. But how about this, Joe? You fail on a 4th down and 10, and you give the ball up at the 34-yard line. You go out there, you play defense, you get the ball back at the plus 22. So you actually net 12 yards from where your last drive ended. So really, if you're the Warriors, you can't ask for much more than that.
I don't think you can. And I think if you're Tri-State, now's the time where you have to come through with some points on offense. You can't ask for any better field position, as you mentioned. You're inside the 25-yard line. You have done some good things offensively. There have been some dropped passes. There have been a couple of misfires, but the looks have been there. You've gotten the pass protection. The receivers have gotten open. And generally, you've avoided those big negative plays that so often set drives back, as we saw for the Panthers on this most recent drive. They moved backwards over 10 yards, close to 15 yards on this drive. And that's a big part of the reason why the Warriors start this drive from deep in Virginia territory.
So here we go from just outside the red zone. The Warriors take over at the Panthers' 22-yard line. They're down by 6. And Williams will start things off with Robinson to her left. We believe we just had our 2-minute warning. We do not have official clock time here in Camden. Tight otherwise. The fake is to Robinson. And Williams is going to throw, and the nearest receiver there was Miller, but it was well beyond her. 2nd down.
Well, the pressure applied on that play off the edge was the difference between a touchdown and an incomplete pass, because Williams stood in there strong in the face of pressure, had the receiver Miller open in the corner of the end zone. That break to the outside got Miller free. You'll see it on the replay. She was all alone, but Williams staring down the barrel of the shotgun, for lack of a better phrase, pressure coming in right in her face, was able to get the throw off, just not on target. And despite the pressure, that goes down as another one that you'd love to have back, a chance to get even on the scoreboard on that last throw.
Yeah, well, if that was a run-pass option, then Williams made the right choice, because they did freeze the linebacker or the defensive end there that was coming in on Robinson. Fortunately, the pass just not synced up with Miller in time. 2nd down and 10. Robinson again in the backfield with Williams. High snap. Williams corrals. Now looks in the opposite direction, and that one is going to be intercepted by Frazier at about the 5-yard line. And Frazier's got a host of room in front of her and the wheels to take it to the house. Armani Frazier is going to double the Panthers' lead.
Huge play by this Panthers defense late in this first half, and if there's one player that you don't want to turn the ball over to in the secondary, it's Frazier. She's a running back. We know she has speed. We've seen it on full display, and now we've seen that she also has good hands. Made no mistake in the secondary, intercepting that football, races up the sideline, had great blocking all the way. Not sure she needed it as she takes that one all the way to the house for 6. That is a catastrophic error if you are Tri-State. That completely changes this game. And what was a drive that began with excellent starting field position ends in 6 points going the other way. Virginia now leads at 12-0.
Yeah, unbelievable. The switch in momentum after that play. The Bearcats get the ball 1st and 10 from just beyond the red zone. And you got to figure with time dying down here in the second quarter, the Panthers go from being in the shadows of their own goalposts to doubling their lead on one play. And so with the score 12-0, they will look to get the 2-point conversion here as we get another look at the replay for a second time. But, these passes in the middle of the field, Joe, and that's not quite the middle of the field, but they have been kind of in some traffic, and that time Frazier timed it perfectly.
Yeah, and I go back to the play before that, and I'll make my point following this conversion try.
From under center, it continues to be Jenkins in at quarterback. She is going to almost fumble, but gets bottled up with nowhere to go. And so for the second time, the Panthers fail on the 2-point conversion, and our score remains 12-0.
So going back to the play before that, you have a chance for the touchdown. You don't get looks that open too often in a game. It wasn't an easy throw, but you have a huge margin for error on that particular play. Miller was all alone in the corner of the end zone with the pressure coming on Williams. If you just get that ball off anywhere near that back corner of the end zone, it's a touchdown. And those are opportunities you hate to see slip through your fingertips, especially in a game where you're trailing. Next play, you know you had a chance on first down. Perhaps you press a little bit on second down, and that's something I mentioned earlier. The throws over the middle, as you said, have been into a bit more traffic. That one, no different. It's intercepted and taken back for a touchdown. But I think those missed opportunities on good open throws sometimes drive you to press a little bit harder as a quarterback and overall as an offense on subsequent downs. And on that particular play, the Warriors paid for it.
Yeah, we got a chance to see both of those plays as well. And, you have to admire the fact that the Warriors, despite the fact that they haven't really converted on a lot of their throws, are continuing to go to the passing game as their bread and butter in this one. But that time it just reared its ugly head in the worst way possible. You get the pick 6 in a game in which your defense hasn't really played that poorly either. Now you're down by 2 scores. So the kickoff here is a short one. It is played by Robinson as one of the up men on the play, and she gets it past the 45, but that's about it, as it took a host of Panthers to get her down.
And how aggressive are you going to be here on this drive if you're Tri-State now? Trailing by 2 scores. We're heading toward halftime. I'm fairly certain we did have the 2-minute warning, and I think
that might be it, Joe.
Yeah, you might be right, but the timing of that turnover really hurts you if you're the Warriors, and it does look like the two teams are headed off the field to their respective sidelines. And I think the Panthers are sending some defensive players out there. So I think we have some time left, and we should. I don't think there's any way we reached halftime on just that one play being the interception return followed by that kick return. But you can see Williams now trying to fire up this Tri-State offense, and they need it right now. They need a score here. You can afford to go into the half down 2 scores, certainly no more than that. Tri-State does get the ball to open up the third quarter, if I recall. But I think regardless of whether you score here or at some point in the second half getting your first points, if you're Tri-State, you have to score the next points.
Yep, and they'll have minimal time to do it. I think we did have our 2-minute warning prior to those last couple of plays that the Warriors ran on their last drive. And, of course, you got the pick six. But there still should be a little bit over a minute to go, maybe a little bit less. And just over half the field to go. It will be a run underneath by Robinson. Robinson skipping over a couple of tacklers before she's put down by Matthews exactly at midfield.
That's a good start to the drive. Positive play. You are going to have to hurry a bit if you're Tri-State here, but that's the right way to start it. At the very least, make sure the Panthers don't get the ball back. Don't give them a chance to stop the clock with a couple of timeouts. If you put yourself in a 3rd and long, 4th and long, that's a good start to the drive. Now it's time to pick up the pace.
3 wide receivers set here. Actually make that 4 wide receivers, 2 on each side. The give is once again, however, to Robinson. Robinson might have enough for the first down, spinning and twisting before she's brought down by Beasley and Jackson, but it looks like they will move the sticks here, and they will indeed.
You'll take that as well, and I think it's important that she got that first down. The yardage, not as important, but making sure you pick up that first down and don't have to worry about picking up a yard on 3rd and short. That makes a big difference when you're in this 2-minute drill trying to get to within a score again. And the way they're huddling up, it's making me question whether or not we reached the 2-minute warning. Did they call timeout?
Well, right, that was the 2-minute warning just now, Joe, because I just saw the official in the white hat put up the 2 sign.
Got it.
So there must have been a timeout taken by one of the teams before that. And there is a pass underneath that is caught. Nice job by China McCall. Gain of about 4 yards on the play, but she had to get down low to make that, and now she comes up hobbling.
And she will hobble off the field to the sideline. The clock is still running now on the other side of the 2-minute warning. We've now officially entered the 2-minute drill here for Tri-State. They have some time. They have to go 41 yards to the end zone, but at the very least, the worst thing that you can afford to have happen is that this is the last possession of the half with no points. If you're Tri-State, don't give the ball back to Virginia, and certainly don't give it to them with any time to score.
Just got a chance to see McCall's first catch of the game. Chops it down to a 2nd and 6 here, but the clock is running, as Joe mentioned before. We are under 2 minutes to go here in the half. Robinson gets the call, and that time she is met in the backfield, nowhere to go. Great job by Priasia Sally on the play.
A bit surprised they ran it there, Dave. They've had open looks in the passing game throughout, and after picking up the first down of this drive on the ground, I thought that on the other side of the 2-minute warning, they'd look to kick it up a gear and try and perhaps move the ball down the field, no huddle with some tempo in the passing game. Running that no-huddle style of offense, easier said than done. But with that handoff now, you put yourself in a 3rd down and long, and you need a big completion here. Otherwise, you risk giving the ball back to the Panthers near midfield.
Right, with the clock continuing to move here, you need a big play. Williams back to pass, does have some time. Now under some pressure and is being chased down and put down. The sack by Gwenasia Herring puts another wrench into this drive, and it looks like the Warriors, if anything, if the clock doesn't expire, will have to punt here to end the second.
And it looks like the Panthers are going to let the clock run in this spot. So this very possibly could bring us to the end of the half.
And I'm wondering now, with both teams going to their respective sidelines, if the Panthers either took the timeout, which would have been their last timeout, or if this is indeed the end of the first half. It looks like the Panthers are exiting the field of play, Joe. At least we saw them exit left on your screen. So I believe we're at halftime.
It looks that way. And, Dave, I think it's now time for the second half.
Well, yeah, no option for our halftime scoreboard to even be introduced. We're about to start the third. So we'll get that queued up on our screen, but we do want to thank our camera operator for coming in the 11th hour to record our game, Alan Sparks, who comes to us courtesy of the HSG Network, and our good friend at Howard Gaber. We want to send a shout out to them and a big thank you for being able to record this game while Joe and I cover it live on tape, as they say. And that one bouncing around and losing it was Delonzo. She's able to pick it back up, but nowhere to go as Delonzo gets bottled up and then spikes the ball down inside the 30.
And that could have been a disaster for Tri-State. It looked like Delonzo was having some trouble securing that ball once again. And if that gets out of her hands, it is big trouble. as it would have set up the Panthers in a position to perhaps scoop and score. But crisis averted for Tri-State, and I've said it throughout this game. They've done some good things in the passing game. They've protected Sine Williams, but time very quickly running out on them to begin connecting on some of those open throws. The receivers have to do a better job of securing the ball. And if you're Sine Williams, you've done a lot of good things putting the ball in the air. Just a couple of misfires in this game. You need to do all you can to give your receivers the best opportunity possible to make these catches and get this offense moving.
Joe, we didn't have a chance to really break things down at halftime, obviously, but judging by the first 30 minutes of this game, Tri-State Warriors offensively, what are some things that you're looking to improve on here in half number 2?
I think you have to secure the football at the wide-out position. When they've run it, they've been positive gains on the ground. You can't ask for too much more there.
And it will be a run to start the second half and powering forward for about a gain of 2, a modest gain, but keeping the chains in front of them. It'll be 2nd and 8 coming up as Robinson continues to control.
And to elaborate on my point just a bit, I think the theme for the offense here in the second half of your Tri-State needs to be take what the defense gives you, and throughout this game, they've given you some open catches. They've given you openings to throw passes, almost daring Sine Williams to try and put the ball in the air. It's when she tried to air it out deep down the field that we've seen some issues, including that big turnover late in the first half. But underneath, openings have been there. You have to complete those passes, be willing to take those, and you'll be able to methodically move the ball up the field.
And Williams has had the time to throw as she gives once again underneath to Robinson. Robinson absorbs a couple of hits, and before making the tackle by Herring, we'll see if she has enough to move the chains here. Indeed, she does.
And despite some drops for Tri-State offensively, I think at the very least, the open opportunities they've had in the passing game has garnered some respect from the defense of Virginia. They're definitely being a bit more attentive to those potential passes here early in the second half, and that's opened up some running lanes. As I mentioned before, in the first half, the carries for Tri-State did not go for negative yards. They were able to keep moving forward, which is always key in these games. You see a lot of carries go for negative yards, but I think because of the success they had in getting receivers open, they are now seeing the benefit of that with some running lanes early in the third quarter.
And the 2 runs have yielded their first down of this second half. And they are right at just inside the 40-yard line. The fake handoff that time has Williams running right in the flat. She meets her receiver. That was Miller. Minimal yardage there. And the good open field tackle by Craighead. But gain of about 1 there on first down.
Yeah, Tillman in on that tackle as well there, Dave. And I really like what the Warriors did there with the play-action fake. If you get a look at it on the replay, look how many white jerseys are in the box there. That play fake drew almost the entire defense for the Panthers toward the offensive backfield. I think the slight hesitation in getting that ball out, it wasn't thrown very quickly. Maybe the receiver not yet turned facing the quarterback, but that needs to develop a little faster to take advantage of that matchup on the outside.
They did not get a favorable spot on that play as Williams gets hit hard by Herring and others to bring her down outside the 40 this time. So she gets about 3 or 4 yards on the play. It'll be 3rd down and about 8 coming up.
That was a big shot dealt out by Herring on that play. And now, if you're the Warriors here, you face a 3rd and long. And I think if you get some of this, if you get halfway there, you may consider going for it if you're Tri-State. I think that's definitely within the realm of possibility.
The Warriors are actually playing with a little bit more pace here in this third quarter. Had to cut our replay short there just a little bit. Get up to the line quickly anyway. 3rd down and 8. Big play here from, as we get some movement here. There's the slot receiver moving, and that time a little too quick off the ball was Kawana Coward.
Well, obviously, that is something you needed to avoid there. 3rd and long versus 3rd and longer in this spot, a huge difference. You know, an 8-yard 3rd down conversion versus a 13-yard 3rd down conversion could be the difference between having to punt on 4th and giving yourself a chance to go for it. And there's only so many more times you can afford to punt the ball away in this game if you're Tri-State. Obviously, you have to keep it a 2-score game. But if you're forced to punt from here inside your own territory, just outside of the 35, it gives the Panthers a chance to go ahead 3 scores. And the way this game has gone, I don't think you can afford to fall behind by 3 scores if you're the Warriors.
Yeah, and the Warriors have only completed 3 or 4 passes in this game total, and they've all been for minimal yardage in that 3 or 4 yard territory down the field. They'll have to go 12 here on this play. They look in the near sideline, and unfortunately the pass thrown, not sure who was in the vicinity, but
there was nobody there,
short.
Dave.
Yep.
There was nobody there. I tried to see if maybe there was a body behind the tent. There was nobody there.
No.
So it looks like maybe a miscommunication, somebody ending up in the wrong spot, but I don't know how that doesn't go down as an intentional grounding in that case. Either way, it's going to be 4th down, and I think if you're the Warriors, you're very fortunate to avoid additional penalty yardage moving you back, as they will get set to punt. And the Panthers now with an opportunity to perhaps put this game away with another score.
Yeah, they had the 1 touchdown on offense, 1 on defense, and now we have a special teams play here as Delonzo back to punt. Looks like the Warriors need some more players on the field. At least that was what Delonzo's call to the sideline was just now. In any event, she receives it, gets a right foot into it, and this one will find turf and continue to bounce all the way down, and Frazier luckily picks it up in the end zone. Now she will take it out and will get past the 10, but now there's whistles there as, again, I'm not quite sure what happened on that one, Joe. It looks like there's some, it looks like the coaches were upset. Oh, there are some flags down here at the 45-yard line as well. So a lot to unpack on that last play as we have personal fouls on both teams.
Offsetting penalties, and we'll do it again here on 4th down.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't get the first part of that replay, but we'll see if we can pick anything up downfield here. Not really. Nothing really conclusive there. As Frazier picked it up and started running, but the whistles had already been down. And I'll tell you what, that ends up being about a 60-yard punt, Joe, with that ball hitting the turf. Now, we'll see where this drive starts as a result of these penalties, but if they were offsetting, then the play should start at the 20-yard line.
It certainly won't start here. And it looks like right now all of the officials are gathered around the Panthers' 35. I would assume they have to kick it again if the penalties are offsetting, but we will wait and see.
Well, yeah, if they were offsetting during the play, then I think the result of the play will stand.
The play never ended.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
The play never ended. They blew it dead with
the
returner, in that case Frazier, carrying the ball out across the 10. But it looks like they are going to spot the ball at the 20. So is it possible the ball bounced in the end zone?
Well, it did bounce in the end zone for sure. It was picked up in the end zone and brought back out by Frazier.
But did it bounce in the end zone? Like actually in the end zone?
Yeah, the ball was picked up while it was in the end zone. I believe it was.
Well, then it would be a touchback.
Right, and I think that's what we have here, right?
That is what we have.
Okay,
so,
okay. All right, so after all of that.
That's why the play was blown dead. It was a touchback.
Gotcha.
I thought it bounced into the end zone and was picked up on the fly before contacting the end zone.
No, it did not.
Okay.
All right, so 1st and 10 after all of that. From the 20-yard line, it looks like it will be a pitch to Frazier here on the right side of the offensive line. She's running out of real estate and is knocked out of bounds. Minimal gain as Coward came in to finish her off out of bounds.
Well, that could have been a big play on the ground there, but if you get a look at it on the replay, Michaela Wilson, the linebacker for Tri-State, really disrupted things. There was a big collision on the edge, and that forced Frazier to bounce that run further to the outside. Were it not for that penetration and pushing that edge blocker toward the backfield, you have a chance for a big play there on the side of Virginia, but nicely done by Wilson to disrupt that play before it could get started.
Yeah, we got a chance to see it on the replay, and perhaps a minimal gain of about 1 on the play, but that's it. Sets up a 2nd down and 9. Remember, Eve Jenkins in at quarterback, having replaced McBride. And in the backfield, once again, the Warriors are there to clamp down on the run game. They're starting to figure things out there as now we get some pushing and shoving after the play again on what I believe was the first carry of the game from Sierra Brown.
We got a flag as well, so
yes, we do.
We're going to have a personal foul one way or the other. And again, if this is on Tri-State, that is a backbreaker. And
Yep.
it is.
Wow. And we are going to slow it down just to see what happens. And it has to be on the aftermath of this play. It looks like Brown continues to turn the legs, and they never do truly get her down. But then there's some pushing and shoving there. We see it wasn't Brown who was the carrier. It was Frazier.
Yeah, Frazier got lost in a mass of bodies there. And since the change at quarterback for Virginia, with Jenkins coming in as the signal caller, it seems like that's really made Tri-State much more aggressive defensively in terms of crowding the line of scrimmage, committing fully to stopping the running game. And thus far, the Panthers haven't shown a willingness to put the football in the air. And I think that's really lent itself to a strong defensive performance here in the second half for the Warriors.
Yeah, and I know it's a lot of hindsight, but this Warriors defense has really played well. I mean, they have given up a couple of chunk runs in this game, but if you remember, Joe, it was that big face mask penalty that got the Panthers set up first and goal. And then it did take them 3 plays to score from in close inside the 5-yard line. So they've been good with this short running game here. And the Panthers really haven't been able to power much between the tackles. So we have a flag down again here. They'll have a conference here to determine whether this is a false start or an offsides. Probably should be a false start here with the play whistle dead. And indeed.
Well, after the Warriors gave the Panthers a gift with the personal foul, the Panthers get 5 of those yards back, and it looks like there's some bewilderment on the part of the Panthers here as they're backed up 5.
So 1st and 15 on a drive that started with a couple of offsetting penalties. We had a personal foul call against the Warriors that advanced and gave the Panthers a first down here, and now another penalty. So we've seen a lot of yellow here on this one. Jenkins continues to work under center. Plenty of players in the box here. Hard to even see Jenkins come out of there, but she is going to put one up and deep on the sideline. And it was a jump ball all the way. Antoinette Wise doing well to break that one up.
Dangerous throw there, and I'm not even sure that an attempt like that down the field is worth it for Virginia. Even if your intent there is to keep the defense honest, I think that the potential turnover and potentially having that go for 6 far outweighs the benefit of keeping the defense honest there. You need to make Tri-State prove they can score on the offensive side of the ball. If you're the Panthers, I'm not opposed to putting the ball on the ground 3 times and taking 2 minutes off the clock on most of these possessions, because they have had some chunk plays running it. And should you turn it over, trying to air it out, I think that could be something that completely swings this game back the other way. So you have to be careful taking risks like that in the passing game.
Right, and neither team has really been able to connect on anything down the field in the air, at least past 10 or 15 yards downfield. Maybe it's only a matter of time, but right now neither team has been able to do it. We do have movement here before the snap as well. The Warriors saying there was a jump, and looks like they might be right here as we're moving backwards again.
Well, we saw the costly penalty for Tri-State on what would have been a 3rd down coming up. They committed the penalty on 2nd, and instead of a 3rd and very long, it was a 1st down awarded to the Panthers. But now Virginia's given 10 yards back via penalty. They threw a jump ball into a very dangerous spot as well. So things not going well for the Panthers since that personal foul committed by Tri-State.
So now it's a 2nd down and 20. Jenkins gives off once again between the tackles, and doing well to break it out was Matthews. Matthews got out of a jam and then head towards the sideline where she gets shuffled out of bounds at about the 35-yard line.
And the escapability of these 2 backs, Frazier and Matthews, and their knack for taking plays that could end up stopped behind the line of scrimmage and turning them into nice gains is the exact reason why I'm almost inclined to say keep the ball on the ground and make the Warriors beat you with the football in their possession, because right now you get a look at these carries, and more often than not, these backs are finding running room out of the backfield. Early in the second half, the Warriors did a good job with their defensive front disrupting the runs. We're now seeing those cracks begin to form here when they get the ball out into some space. And I think trying to keep these runs to the outside is where you want to be if you're the Panthers. And just as I say that, Dave, they go empty.
Yes, they do, and it is a third down and about 10 here on this play. 4 wide receivers out to the left side. Jenkins looks in the middle and now looks off and in the flat, and that one is off the kneecap. And that's going to be ruled an incomplete pass. That went off of the kneecap of Matthews. It did look like a forward pass.
It was.
Yeah, it'll be a 4th down.
That being said, still could have been problematic. That ball took a really awkward bounce off the knee and into the air. And all it takes is one member of that defensive line to get eyes on it, and all of a sudden you're headed back the other way. And Dave, looks like the Warriors offense has taken the field here.
So was that a 4th down play? We had it as
I
third.
don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Well, certainly wasn't ruled a fumble, so maybe that was a 4th down.
Here comes the punt.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I didn't see the punter there.
And there's another potential muff there, and do they come down with it? The ball is still loose, and it is Matthews who takes it. Matthews at the 35, in past the 20, and she's going to go to the house. Matthews in for the touchdown on a most improbable play.
There it is, Dave. We mentioned it earlier. A special teams play can completely change a game. And, of course, the Panthers had a 2-score lead already, and Tri-State was poised to get the football back. However, Tri-State now trails by 3 scores. They had their backs up against the wall before that turnover into a touchdown. They now may be out of this game, trailing by 3 scores very late, still looking for their first points. That is a crippling mistake by the Warriors, and I think the takeaway from this game, should the Warriors fail to come back, is their inability to secure the football. They had a chance for an interception go through the hands of a defender. They've had several passes go through the hands of receivers, and now on that punt, the ball skips off the hands of the returner into the arms of Virginia, and taking it all the way back for the 3rd Virginia touchdown was Matthews. A completely back-breaking play for the Tri-State Warriors there.
And Joe, while you were explaining it, we were watching several replays of that, including one in very slow motion, just to make sure that Haley Delonzo indeed touched that ball, and it looked like she did, just grazed off of the fingertips here as Jenkins looks to pile forward and is short. It just got the official signal that she did not make it, and the Warriors hold for a 3rd time in a 2-point conversion attempt. But they fall behind 18-0. Joe, for the Panthers, 1 on offense, 1 on defense, and now 1 on special teams.
Yeah, and I think it's been a complete effort in that regard. If you're Virginia, I think the biggest thing that's been lacking for them so far in this game has been any traction in the passing game. However, they haven't needed it. And I think their defense has done a really good job against Tri-State. They know what this Warriors offense has looked to do generally. It's been inside handoffs and a lot of quick passes and short completions. The receivers haven't been able to secure the ball. That's allowed them to focus a bit more on the running game. And with that, they've been able to limit how quickly this Warriors offense can move up the field. They got the ball back. We're looking to punt it away, and the Warriors just give it right back with a miscue. And I said it before, Dave, the sure-handedness of Tri-State that's been lacking in this game right now is the big difference. They've had chances, and a lot of those have slipped through their fingertips on both sides of the ball and on special teams.
Yeah, literally through their fingertips, as we got a chance to see it again. But that ball, even if it missed Delonzo's fingertips on when it hit the turf and then bounced back up, it looked like it hit her in the shin area or in the midsection as the ball took the weird trajectory. But got to give credit, too, to Dia Marie Matthews, not only for picking up the fumble, but having the wherewithal to return it as well. As Carpenter gets into this one, and line drive end-over-end kick is finally settled down by Wise. Wise kicks it up past the 30 and is now twisted past the 35 to about the 38-yard line. So now if you're the Warriors, you haven't been able to score points in this game. You haven't really been able to string together first downs consistently. Now you need to register 3 touchdowns.
And you have to work quickly, and I think that's the biggest obstacle right now. This Warriors team, as I mentioned, they've been looking primarily to hand the ball off up the middle when they've looked to run. Most of those runs have come between the tackles. And when they've looked to pass, they've tried to keep it, I would say, within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage primarily. That's been in stark contrast to what we've seen from the Panthers, who when they've thrown it, they've looked to put the ball down the field. And I think if you're Tri-State, at some point you're going to need a completion down the field. I don't think that time is right now. You continue to do what's worked for you in this game, but you have to do it at a high tempo. You can't afford to take time off the clock, and I'm not sure you can afford that as Tri-State has called timeout.
Yes, they have. So that's the first timeout that they've called here in this second half, and they'll only have 2 remaining as we'll get restarted rather quickly here. But, yeah, the Warriors, got to stop themselves from going backwards, too. We've seen some of the penalties hurt them on these drives, but they've been able to move the ball forward in the run game at the very least, to at least get it to 2nd and 7, 3rd and 6, and that type. But eventually they will have to string together some completions as well. And really only the high percentage ones have worked to this point. Williams coming off of the timeout. Ball spotted at the 38-yard line here to start this drive. Robinson to her left, in there for blocking purposes. Pump fake by Williams. Now she's going to take off and run with it, and perhaps manages to get back to the line of scrimmage as Natasha Butts was in there on the tackle. But not much going on there for Williams.
And I think you still have to hurry. And we'll see how much tempo the Warriors look to play with here on this drive. I'm not sure you have time to huddle, trailing by 3 scores at this point in the game, but it looks like they will. They're getting players in from the sideline as well as Delonzo heads back out onto the field. So Tri-State not operating with seemingly much urgency here. We'll see if that changes should they pick up a first down.
Yeah, exactly right, Joe, because you would think, especially with your backup quarterback in the game for the Panthers, that they're going to do a heavy dose of running when they do get the ball back, and will automatically, even if they don't get any first downs, shave off significant time off the clock when they have the ball. So not only do you have to score relatively quickly here. Williams, the pump fake, I believe she still has it in the backfield, and she's going to get taken down for the sack. It was Carmen Shante Craighead and Butts once again on the tackle. And once again, going backwards are the Warriors. Another sack on Williams.
Yeah, and I think if there's a time in this game where you couldn't afford a sack, it's now. We've only seen Williams go down behind the line of scrimmage once, if memory serves me correctly. But that's a big one right there. And now if you're Tri-State with a 3rd and very long coming up, it's now or never. I think you have to go for this if you don't get it. And you could end up in a 4th down and very, very long without yardage.
I think that's the end of the 3rd quarter, too, Joe, as the official just put the ball over his head. So, indeed, we are going to switch sides. So, we knew there wasn't much time left in this game for the Warriors to put up a comeback, and now there's fewer still as they'll only have the final 15 to work with. We're at the end of 3 with the Panthers up 18-0.
Well, if you're Tri-State now, I think the objective here immediately becomes pick up a chunk of this on 3rd down, and they'll get to work quickly here as we begin the 4th quarter. But you need to get something here and put yourself in a position where you can go for this, because I don't think you can afford to give the ball back to Virginia.
So it's 3rd down and 17 as we get back to live action here. The give is to Robinson up the middle, and that fooled no one. She maybe plowed ahead for 2 or 3. But on a play when you need 17, that's a bit of a dubious call.
I think the objective there was to get some of it. I know for sure they were hoping to get more than that. And with what you got, I don't know if you can consider going for it. I don't think you can, needing this much. So it looks like Tri-State is going to punt it away. And I think the ideal outcome there is you pick up between 5 and 10, and then you're within 10 yards of a first down, you can go for it. But backed up this far, I don't think you can. And with this down and distance, punting is the right call.
Sure, you understand the rationale there. You're hoping there you catch the Panthers by surprise, and Robinson can get you the 8-10 yards to make going for it on 4th down justified. But the Warriors here are having a really hard time with getting some personnel on the field. Now skating in late was Poole. Delonzo gets into this one. It will be played on a bounce. Actually, that goes through everybody and is finally downed by the Warriors outside their own 40. Man, that took a really, really tough bounce for the Warriors.
It took what looked like an almost impossible bounce through everybody. And we may get a very quick look at it ahead of this next snap. But either way, at that point, you were almost better off going for it with how bad that bounce was.
Yeah, they only got about 10 yards of a net on that as we have our first throw here. It was a lateral, actually, and it's going to result in about a loss of 4 yards for Matthews and a penalty coming in late as well on the play. So that was definitely a backwards throw by Jenkins.
I was looking for a double pass when that ball came out. I thought they were trying a trick play there, and they are going to call, I believe, pass interference.
No, it was a hold. Oh, yeah, pass interference on the offense.
Yeah, that looked like an attempt at a double pass, given where the receiver was and the nature of the backward pass. I don't think that was a screen. I think they were going for a home run on a trick play.
So if you take the result of the play, it would be about a 2nd and 14. If you opt for the penalty, it's a 1st and 20. So we'll see. It looks like they're going to back things up here.
I think you have to back them up as far as you can back them up.
Right, exactly, because you want the ball back in as best field position as you can. So it'll be a 1st and 20 as that play gets wiped out. But go figure. We tell you that the Panthers are going to run, and get time off the clock. They once again line up with an empty backfield on 1st down and 20. After passing on the first play of the drive as well, they go deep, and it's short. It was in the direction of Bayham, who's yet to make a catch. Actually, that was Frazier going out wide. 2nd down.
You only get so many game reps over the course of a season, and I think if you're the Panthers here looking to throw, the big reason why is because you're trying to find what's been missing in this game so far. That being said, a turnover is the only way the Warriors get back in this game immediately. You have to be careful.
2nd down and 20 once again. Jenkins, empty backfield. That one's intercepted by Delonzo, and Delonzo's going the other way. And she gets pushed out of bounds at about the 30-yard line. And so Joe, the long downfield passing backfires in the worst way on the Panthers. They give the ball right back to the Warriors. And with full momentum now on their side from a big defensive play on their side of the ball.
Well, Dave, they weren't careful enough. They threw that one right to Delonzo. And like I said, you only get so many game reps over the course of a season. And when you're trying to find your passing game that hasn't been a factor so far in this matchup, you figure up 3 scores. Maybe now's the time to do it. However, this game's not over. It's still early in the 4th quarter. And to throw the ball right back to Tri-State, putting them in a scoring position immediately, that's the only way you can let them back in this game. And I think it was a bit early to be throwing the ball the way they were on that drive without taking any time off the clock. I think you needed to stop Tri-State one more time before you got into that mode. We'll see if the Warriors can make them pay.
Yeah, not even using play action either. Just with the empty backfield, you know the pass is coming. I don't think Jenkins is really a threat to run with the ball at quarterback. But here we go, the other way. This is Williams in the flat, and that one is actually caught in some traffic by Valerie Miller and kept the concentration up on that play and is able to get about a gain of 4 or 5.
We've seen a lot of routine pitch and catch type pass plays in this game for Tri-State that have not been completed. That may have been one of the tougher completions that they've had throughout this game, and that is the one they convert on. It couldn't have come at a much better time, however, as Miller in heavy traffic is able to hold on to that football, and the Warriors will huddle once again here ahead of this next snap. They need to get moving.
Yeah, now they're able to break the pocket, break the pack, I should say, and get up to the line of scrimmage. 2nd and about 4 coming up. Williams once again will go back to pass. A little bit of pressure coming on her by Butts, and she's able to shed one, but a good tackle there. Shoestring tackle by Natasha Butts. She registers her 2nd sack of the game, and that's one that the Warriors could do without.
Yeah, it's a sack you can't take there, but Williams initially thought she had broken free, had her eyes back downfield. Butts not giving up on that play, was able to keep her fingertips interlaced with those shoestrings, Dave, and just take Williams down before she could break free and continue up the field. And now we're back in the 3rd and long situation for Tri-State. Have to have it. You have 2 plays to pick up the first down.
Yeah, we have it as a 3rd down and 10. We'll see exactly. We don't know where the sticks are at this point, but Williams will operate out of the shotgun and will undoubtedly be putting this one in the air, you'd have to think. Long count, and that ball on the ground skips in. Williams looking for the home run here towards the goal line, and it is caught, and it's into the end zone for the score. Delonzo puts the Warriors on the board.
They had to have it, Dave, and they got it. Williams to Delonzo. This offense delivers 6 for the first time in this game. And once again, Dave, all game long we've mentioned it. They've had opportunities in the passing game, some routine pitch and catch type plays. They haven't been able to connect on many of those. They connected on 2 of the most difficult completions that they've had all game on this drive. That last one goes for a touchdown. A great throw under pressure. I'm not sure Williams saw it coming from the blind side. Delonzo in traffic, able to make the over-the-shoulder grab as she was tackled forward into the end zone.
And for a tough a game as Delonzo has had at wide receiver, she makes the play that starts this drive on defense with a great catch and run and finishes off the drive with a great catch out over the extended defensive back. We lost it on camera for just a moment, but seeing it through and then barreling into the end zone as well. 2-point conversion here to potentially cut it to 10. It will be Williams looking to pass. She has all day, maybe making her way towards the pylon, running out of room and getting corralled out of bounds and thrown out. And so the score remains 18-6 as Williams is fired up.
Still a 2-score game if you're Tri-State. Not much really changes there. And I think you have, if you do score twice, a couple of more opportunities to convert on one of those 2-point tries and maybe steal this game. But if you're Tri-State, you got exactly what you needed. The Panthers got a bit reckless with the football. They turn it over. Delonzo with the interception sets up the Tri-State offense in scoring position. She then comes up with the big touchdown grab on a good throw from Sine Williams. And we have a game again. There's still time left in this one. The Warriors will kick it away, but they have some life here in the 4th quarter. They need another big stop on defense.
Now, I would guess we do not have a clock here in Camden running, but I would guess we have about 8 to 9 minutes remaining in this one, probably closer to 9, I would guess, as the Warriors do elect to kick it down the field. It is collected by Matthews outside the 20. She races towards the right sideline, gets held up, fights for more yards, and is out past the 45-yard line. So the Panthers will take over in pretty good field position. But, you know, remember, Joe, when the Warriors gave the ball up the last time that the Panthers got it, they just passed the ball routinely, and they didn't let a lot of time bleed off the clock. So much of the 4th quarter is preserved here as we have another injury timeout.
And I think if you're Tri-State, you would have preferred to see that return go for a bit less, as even if you get a stop now, you're likely to get the ball back on your own side of midfield. And through this injury timeout, we skip ahead just a bit as the Virginia offense will take the field. Dusk beginning to fall over Camden.
Yep, ball spotted at the 47-yard line. So obviously for the Warriors, turnover would be priority number 1, but holding the Panthers to a 3-and-out here and giving the ball back to their offense becomes mission critical. Down by 12. Jenkins, this time they come in I formation. The give is to Matthews, the up back, and she is spilled down hard after a loss of about 1. Good job with penetration that time by Shakira Gray.
And I think Virginia is going to be a bit more hesitant to pass the football on this drive as we have another injured Panther down on a knee, but getting back to her feet, appearing to be okay, is Sally on the play. Either way, I think Virginia is going to look to run the ball twice, take just over a minute off the clock, and then if they do decide to pass it on 3rd down, something tells me they'll be a bit more cautious with the football in that spot.
But the clock was stopped for a while during that timeout, but has been since reset and is running now as we have a 2nd down and 11 coming up. And again, by process of deduction, we believe that Natasha McBride was the injured player earlier in the game that warranted the ambulance on the field, and that's the reason for Jenkins being in at quarterback since that time. And their offense has been pretty grounded here by the Warriors as Jenkins has nowhere to go. Thought at first she was looking for the option play, but with nobody behind her, it becomes a 3rd down and long.
And I think entering this drive, if you're Tri-State, knowing how the last drive ended for Virginia with the turnover, you had to figure they were going to be a bit more conservative. I completely agree with that decision on the side of Virginia, but that also allows the Warriors to crowd the line of scrimmage and make sure that the runs attempted by the Panthers don't go for much, as Virginia will call timeout here. But now you have a 3rd and long. The Panthers haven't picked up anything on this drive. And if you're Tri-State, you have a chance to get off the field and get the ball back very quickly if you can get a stop on this 3rd down.
So here we go, 3rd down and 11 here. The Warriors, with the benefit of the clock being out, 2 timeouts remaining. Midway through the 4th quarter here, down by 12. Their defense has played well in this game, have the Warriors. They've allowed just the 1 touchdown in the early stages of the 2nd quarter, but since then have been relatively stout. Jenkins back to pass, looking right side towards the middle of the field, and a jump ball, 1 against 1. Baham through her outstretched arms. Good coverage that time by Lily Anderson.
Yeah, and I think, why not if you're Virginia there? You take a shot to get the 1st down. It's one-on-one, and those are the risks that are worth taking. You have one-on-one coverage down the field. You know exactly what you're looking at if you're a quarterback. You don't have to worry about a defender undercutting a route like that or making a play on the ball that you don't see coming. I think the way they were throwing it before, they were trying to throw more of those intermediate passes that are much more susceptible to a defensive back jumping in front and making a play on the football. I'm okay with the jump ball in that spot. I think the only negative from a play call like that is that it does stop the clock, and the Warriors get the ball back without, I would say, more than a minute 20, minute 30 coming off the clock on that drive. You have to be pleased with the outcome of that possession defensively if you're the Warriors.
100%. It looks like the Panthers are all out of sorts here on this punt here. They might need to go quickly. And Carpenter with a bad snap. And actually, I think she might have gotten bailed out by a delay of game penalty. That could have been disastrous as well.
Have to be careful here if you're the Panthers. They played a mostly clean game following that turnover on the opening drive up until the interception. So that was a string of nearly 3 strong quarters of football. I think, as I mentioned before, the passing game has been lacking, but they've had it going just about every other facet of the game.
So Carpenter to punt. The ball spotted just outside the 40. That's a sky-high punt. Will it be played? No, it will not. It takes a Warriors bounce, and it is played on the fly and moved up to about the 45-yard line by Valerie Miller, her first return of the game. Perhaps just shy of the 45, but that sets us up here. The Warriors 56 yards away from pay dirt. They need 2 scores. And starts now.
Yeah, I don't think you can afford to be stopped again if you're Tri-State. The entire field now 4-down territory. And if you're the Panthers, you know that as a defense, and that definitely makes things a bit easier on you. You know that if they end up in a 3rd or a 4th down situation where the yards to gain is more than about 6 or 7, they're probably passing. That holds true for most of the game. But we saw earlier, late in that 3rd quarter, when it was a 3rd down and very long and they needed to pick up some yardage toward a 1st down, they handed it off up the middle. I don't think that's an option now, and that definitely plays to your advantage as a defense.
100% here is, you know, the completion percentage of Williams has been much better since the 1st quarter of this game. I think she was 0 for her first 5 or 6 passes, but since then it's been better. But they're going to need that downfield throwing game to get themselves back here. But there is a chance midway through this 4th. The throw near the sideline, and that time nowhere near Miller, the intended receiver.
Looked like all of the receivers on that particular play were headed down the field, and the ball had to come out a bit more quickly than Williams would have wanted there. It looked like the outbreak on that route by Miller was made deep down the field. That ball well short of the intended target on the play to bring up 2nd down. But you're going to need chunk plays like that, and those are throws that you'll have to make at some point before this game is done if you're the Warriors and are going to have a chance of coming back.
So 2nd down and 10. Williams, 3-step drop under heavy pressure, and from behind she gets sacked. That ball was down. Not sure what the call is. Looks like we're going to have a 1st down pointing the other way.
Yeah.
So the fumble comes in on the sack by Carpenter, and Butts is able to get on the ball.
And I think that was certainly the right call. The ball did come out on the way down. I know you'll be able to slow that down for us, Dave, as we'll get a clear look at it from our position along the near sideline. But Williams didn't begin moving out of the pocket soon enough, and I think if she feels that pressure from behind a bit earlier, maybe she can avoid that hit from behind and the ultimate fumble that resulted from it. Unfortunately for the Warriors, she did not sense that pressure soon enough, coughs up the football, and that very well could do it in this game as the Panthers take over in plus territory inside the Tri-State 40-yard line.
So we got a chance to see it 2 or 3 times, and we were able to pause it right where the ball is now. Those knees are close, Joe, and as a result, the ball is going to go back to the Warriors. So after further review, they have determined that that was not a fumble, but a sack instead. So it'll be a 3rd down and about 16. So while we were out on break, fast forward a bit, and they got together, the officials did. It's 3rd down and 16. Low snap, and this time no choice but for Williams to sit down on that loose ball. And another sack here for the Panthers.
And you could make the case that with the result of that play, you were better off coughing it up on the fumble.
Yeah, true.
Because now you backed up further. You probably have to go for it this late in the game. And if you were to turn it over in this spot, the Panthers take over deeper in Tri-State territory. But going back very quickly to the last call, do you think it was right of them to overturn it?
It's very close, Joe. I don't have the huge. I'm going to try and watch it again. I just don't have a big enough screen to see it conclusively of where that ball starts to come out. I mean, I guess our folks at home can also weigh in as well, but
you have some time here as the Warriors are getting the correct personnel in the field.
Yeah, it looked like as soon as that ball came out, the knees were on the ground. But again, if there was maybe a fraction more or a frame where that ball's coming out a little bit sooner, maybe. But we slowed it down as much as we possibly can and paused it right where we saw the ball definitively come out. The knees were down. They did elect to punt here on 4th and 20, and it will be Matthews once again scampering right side, gaining the 50, past the 45 to the 40, and is finally wrestled out of bounds. And another one of those plays, Joe, where you're probably better off going for it after a net of maybe 8 yards on the punt.
It just seems like throughout this game, it's been far too easy for punts to net you nothing. And I think that's been an issue for the Warriors as the Panthers get to work on offense quickly here.
And we'll work out of the I formation. We'd expect them to run repeatedly. Look at how many players in the box for the Warriors, and they eat up Matthews in the backfield. And it'll be 2nd down and long. But, yeah, the Warriors doing everything to sell out here to the run, and deservedly so.
You don't have much of a choice. In a spot like this, you have to get the ball back. Tri-State has called timeout here, so we would suspect now that we're inside the final 5 minutes or so. Maybe less time remaining than that as Tri-State begins to use their timeouts. And I think the turnover late in the first half is what lost the Warriors a grip on this game. They were obviously trailing by 2 scores when that turnover occurred, but they were within striking distance. They were getting the ball to open up the 3rd quarter. That late turnover in the first half completely changed everything. And I think when you're playing from 3 scores down as opposed to 2, it completely shifts the dynamic of the game. A lot of plays that perhaps you'd like to call, you can no longer call anymore on both sides of the ball. And I think once that turnover happened, the Panthers had really solidified their hold on what looks like it's going to be a victory.
As Jenkins lines up under center again, we'd expect there to be a couple of rushes, and indeed it will be. Frazier now spinning off tackle right side. She gets hold up by the wall of Warriors defenders. Minimal gain on the play. It'll set up a 3rd down and long if that doesn't do it. Now, the Warriors do have 1 timeout remaining. And, you know, the Warriors should feel pretty good, Joe, about what they did defensively in this game. Now, granted, the Panthers were without their starting quarterback here for, you know, a good chunk of this one. But with the exception of a couple of long runs early, they've really kind of bottled up this offense. And it was a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown that is the difference in this one.
Yeah, and you can afford the special teams miscue if you don't have the late pick 6. And the special teams miscue obviously is devastating, especially at the time that it came, with your team slated to get the ball back, trailing by just 2 scores. But I think the pick 6, when you had the ball in plus territory, what could have been a score turning into 6 the other way, backbreaking.
Right. 100%, as now we have a pass, and that one is caught and potentially good enough for a 1st down as well. First catch of the game by Deshaundra Beasley. That was put in traffic as well. And how about that? 1st and 10, as we have a timeout now called by the Panthers.
And Dave, by my count, that's the first completed pass for Virginia. The backwards pass goes down as a rush.
Right.
So I think that's their first completion. And it was another dangerous throw, dropped into traffic perfectly over the top of 2 Warriors and in front of another. That was as good-looking a throw as we've seen in this game from Virginia. And the first completion of the game belongs to Eve Jenkins.
And the Panthers officially took a timeout on that play as well. With the Massey ratings, points are huge and critical in the standings, and that's why the more points, the better, as they look to go end zone on this play. And it was underthrown. Good coverage either way by Coward on the play. It'll be 2nd down.
Well, they had it. Bayham had a step on that play, and the throw was a bit too far to the inside. Not enough air under it, and no chance for the completion there. So it looks like the official may have signaled the 2-minute warning.
I think so. Caught it late as well. But, yeah, this one coming down to the wire, but it will be. Oh, you know what, Joe? The Tri-State Warriors have the ball.
They didn't get the first.
That was 4th down.
They didn't
correct.
pick it up. They were just short.
Okay.
I thought they got it on the pass. They did
so
not.
Did I. Yeah,
they did not.
Having these sticks on the near side has not been our friend, at least for broadcast reasonings, watching this game on tape. So the Warriors get another chance here. In the dying moments, the crossing pattern, that one was thrown low in the direction of Delonzo. She could not reel it in. 2nd down.
I think moving forward in this season, if you're Tri-State, you look back at this game, and there was a lot of good on both sides of the ball. You mentioned their defensive effort throughout this game. They did not allow a pass completion until the 4th quarter. They've done a much better job limiting the big carries in this game in the 2nd half. But when you look back at this game film, what you're going to see is a lot of opportunities that went by the wayside on the offensive side of the ball. Chances for completions late in the 1st half. Obviously, the pick 6 was a backbreaker. And then on special teams, if you take it a bit further, you cannot allow a muffed punt to go for a touchdown. However, I think the opportunities to win this game were there.
Williams goes back to pass again, under heavy pressure, pump faked, and now the quick throw. Not sure if there was an eligible receiver there, unless Cabrina White was the eligible on that play, but either way, it'll be 3rd down.
Well, the only way that there was an eligible receiver there is if that eligible receiver reported eligible off the offensive line, because I did not see any tight ends or wideouts anywhere near where that ball landed.
Well, no protest really from the Panthers. It'll be 3rd down and 10 here. And, yeah, one of my biggest takeaways from this game, Joe, is I like the Warriors' intent on being able to throw the football, but looks like the timing has been off on a couple of these patterns, just not in sync. Of course, you mentioned the drops, especially early, just really handicapped the continuity of this offense and what it could do. On 3rd and 10, Robinson stays into block, moving up in the pocket and making the catch down the field. That was Kaveen Johnson when her first catch, and that's enough to move the sticks.
And There's a big play for this Tri-State offense. They've had a couple of those here in the second half. Chief among them, the touchdown completion. But in terms of yardage, that is the biggest passing play by either team in this game.
Yeah, perhaps with the exception of the touchdown by the Warriors. I'm not sure officially how many yards that went for, but that's, if that wasn't first, then that was first right there, what we just saw. And there's another pass completed in the flat as DeLonzo clears the 50-yard line and will set up a second down and short. And I think that does it, Joe. I just saw the officials wave the end of the game, and now we have to have players removed from one another. But, Joe, it's official. This one is a final, and that was the final play of the game.
Well, these two teams wasting no time going at one another after the final whistle. And they'll break things up here as both teams are separated and helped back to their respective sidelines. But it's going to be a win for the Virginia Panthers as the Warriors lose for the first time this season.
So the Warriors level to 1-1 on the season. The Virginia Panthers 2-1. Joe, a real pleasure calling this game with you. And next time we'll be live at Camden when they take on the Ambush. But good foundational game here for the Warriors.
I think there's a lot of positives to take away. We mentioned it on the offensive side. The opportunities to win this game were there. You convert on those next time, the result can be very different. Good things happen on defense as well.
All right, so that'll do it for us here from Camden. Once again, your final score, the Virginia Panthers 18, the Tri-State Warriors 6. This has been a presentation of the PDF Sports Network. We'll see you next time.